Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp, and we're once again at the episode where we look at the reviews we did last month, ranking them from best to worst, or worst to best as it may be, for the month of January.
There were a few good games, I think, weren't there? Surprisingly so for January, but maybe not the absolute cream of the crop.
Yeah, January is one of those months. It is the month of the year, I think, that's the driest. So these are the games we reviewed, and hopefully February will pick up a bit more.
Let's hope so. All right, what were they? Well, let's find out.
So in 10th place then, we had Cynthia Hidden in the Moon Shadow. This is a third-person, action stealth game, I guess, where you play as Cynthia on a quest to save her village.
Yeah, this to me looked a bit like Horizon Zero Dawn, as if it was made by an indie team.
Yeah, pretty much. It took elements of Horizon, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or obviously its sequel in some respects, obviously scaled it down and sold it for a much cheaper price because of that. It did well enough for the price you're paying and for the amount of time you're getting, which is about, 3 hours, I guess. The stealth worked quite well. The camera sometimes got in the way. It felt like a tech demo for a team that were trying to see what they could do themselves before trying to move on to something a bit bigger, you know?
Yeah, I got that impression, to be fair, just seeing a couple of the puzzles, and like you say, some of the stealth is a little clunky.
Yeah, for sure. If you find it on sale, obviously the value section would have taken a hit, but as it currently stands, it got a SwitchUp score of 65%.
Lovely stuff. All right, next up then, in 9th position, we've got Hitman Blood Money Reprisal, which has just seen, finally, a native version on the Nintendo Switch. I was saying in the video, it's 10 years since I had a bet with my brother that we would be playing this game in handheld. So I was playing it on the Xbox, and he was like, oh, this stuff's never come into, handheld form factor. I was like, no, 10 years, it'll be here. He was like, no, because it'll be far too hot, it'll melt your hands. I'm like, because there'll be new technology, surely. So it was quite cool, actually. Now, this one, when it first came out, I would have given it a score in the 90s and stuff like that, just because within its time frame, it was so amazing. Now it does show its age, even strangely, mostly compared to its own games.
Right, yeah.
So the newer Hitman games, they just play so much more fluidly. And this one, even down to the walking animation, is pretty clunky. The AI is still pretty decent. It's okay. It's all right. Then the mechanics are the same. It is nice to have things like gyro controls. They've obviously tried there. I did notice a couple of performance stutters and stuff like that. But if you like Hitman, and Blood Money was always one of my favourites. Yeah. Really good game. You said about the Opera House.
Yeah, it's quite an iconic level, isn't it?
It's great.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And getting them, making sure at the end of the stage you've got the newspaper article and it tells you, if anyone even knew it was an assassin. I love all of that. So yeah, that one got a SwitchUp score of 75%.
Into 8th place now then, and this I believe is our most recent review as per the recording of this video, and that's Grime Definitive Edition.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got a review of this one out. I did see this pop up in one of the Nintendo trailers, how they do. They sometimes just drop a trailer and you're like, oh, that looks quite interesting. So this is a Metroidvania Souls-like hybrid, a Soulsvania, if you will. and it's really good. Yeah, it uses a difficulty mechanic that I really liked, and it actually made me enjoy this a lot more than it otherwise could have done. When you die, you don't lose any experience.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I've never seen that in a Souls-like before. Normally everything respawns, you lose all your stuff, you've got to go back to your corpse. Here, all you lose is a multiplier that affects the amount of experience you get.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah,
it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I do like that.
So you can head back to your body, destroy the shell, and get half of that multiplier back.
Oh, nice.
But you keep all that experience, so when you die, you think, all right, I'm going to pump a load of points into health, and I can go back stronger, and it's just a motivation that it wasn't wasted time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Visually, though, it looks like a claymation, it's blurry.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of you play it. The backgrounds are pre-rendered, aren't they, from what I saw?
It's actually,
they have that look to them.
Yeah, they have that look, yeah. They do. It's kind of Parallax has that look, but it's almost like low poly.
Yes, yeah.
But there are some areas where it's fine. You'll see the footage and it's like contrast. And I said this, artistically looks good.
Yeah.
And in others, it looks like a potato.
Right.
So yeah, unfortunately, it suffered. And then there's a few performance issues as well. But yeah, overall, still a good game, but I'll be waiting for a chunky old sale on that one or a nice patch.
Fair enough.
They got a SwitchUp score of 76%.
Lovely stuff. Right, into 7th place for the month then, and we had another code, Recollection.
Interesting, because I played the DS version of this, didn't I? And then we kind of tried to piece together the changes.
Yeah, so I played the DS one back in the day. This is a collection of the DS and the Wii version, I should say. But they've kind of merged them into one game to some degree. I don't think they've done a great job of that, which was one of my criticisms, but that was the aim. But the two games are basically almost like mystery point-and-click games with a hint of visual novel in there as well, I guess, where you move around the area and obviously look for clues, solve puzzles, etc. The main character, Ashley, she starts off looking for her dad in the first game, and then it kind of picks up a couple of years later in the sequel. Now, for me, the biggest issue I have with this new release of the game is that the first game on the DS came out very early in that console's life, and it was a very good way of showing just what the DS could do, down to blowing out candles and using the clamshell like a book, and you solve puzzles using the elements that made the DS what it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, for this to work, they basically had to take out most of the old puzzles and put brand new ones in.
It's funny, isn't it? Because really they didn't. Hear me out. The Joy-Con, they have so much, control. We've seen like there was a game where you could like feel the number of balls in a cup and all of that.
That was 1-2 Switch, wasn't
it?
For
Nintendo, with that tech, they've never really utilised that to the level they could, and they could have done some really interesting things there, but they haven't.
No, yeah, absolutely right. It's a very good point. It's the HD Rumble, isn't it? And they could have made this the game where finally it realised its potential.
Exactly.
But they didn't. They went for very standard puzzles that are not very taxing at all, and it just became a bit by the numbers. Again, still a good game. The story is interesting enough. It does drag a touch, and the puzzles are fine if you haven't played the original.
Yeah.
You just kind of know what you're missing to a degree, you know. And I do agree with you. They should have made better use of the technology at their disposal. But all said and done, it got 77%.
Nice. In joint 5th place then, first up we've got Palia, or Palia, however you want to say it. This is a completely free game, and for that reason alone, I actually do recommend this one because it doesn't waste your time like almost every other free game that I've played. Well, most of the time. I'll tell you about it in a second. It's a farming sim, but you can play it cooperatively. So I've been playing through with my daughter. She's on her Switch, I'm on mine. And she can visit my farm and kind of supposedly help me. I say, it's ridiculous. You only have a finite number of resources like trees and stuff. They take a bit of time to regrow. And, I'll go out the front door and I'll be like, all right. And she's like, yeah. And I look, there's just a desert. She's just chopped everything down, cut everything up. And I look over the fence and I see her palatial farm, thriving. I'm like, you're right. She's like, yeah, just, twigs behind her back, shuffling off. So we've had a good laugh on this, actually. It's been really nice. And obviously that online component, I think, is almost something that's been missing from this genre. You play your Stardew Valleys and your other things. But doing it on your own, it kind of lacks that. There's another element, because in this one, you go down to the town centre and, you see all the other farmers getting their gear and stuff. And I really like that. Sure, there's a lot they could do, the netcode's janky, the performance in town's a bit meh. But yeah, I think it's a good game if you like the genre, and the fact that you can try it out for free, yes please.
Can't go wrong, can you?
No, it got a SwitchUp score of 79%.
Lovely. In joint 5th as well, then of course, we had Knights of the Rogue Dungeon.
This is quite a quick one to talk about. This was one of our mini reviews, I think. So Knights of the Rogue Dungeon is from a very small team that looked at Qbert and thought, yeah, we could do a game like that.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
And it's very much a pick up and play arcade game that has some roguelite elements in it, but they just relate to unlocking characters and some skills and things. But each stage basically sees you trying to change the colour of the ground. So you just got to go over every tile without getting hit. Super simple, easy controls. I was saying to you at the time, it's one that uses the D-pad well. It's a much easier to use the D-pad here than an analog stick. And then once you've hit a checkpoint, you unlock the next full set of levels, so you can start from there without having to go all the way back to the beginning. So I guess it's a roguelite. Is that the term?
Yeah, I guess so. Qbert was great back in the day, and it's nice to see that the formula still works in what we are, 2024, isn't it? So yeah, good stuff. And that one obviously also got a SwitchUp score of 79%. Into 4th place now then, and we had The Cub. Now this is a 2D action platformer with some sort of kind of parkour elements in there. Reminds me a bit of things like Limbo. I've said that before in previous videos, where there's constant traps and grisly ends can await your character if you're not careful. Very well constructed game. Yeah, a good very good platformer.
I don't think that dated, in air quotes, gameplay mechanics always has to be a negative, It does feel like a flashback or another world type platformer.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But in a good way. you know, with a cross of kind of like the Jungle Book and a bit of fluidity of the movement. It's nice.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, you're not wrong at all, actually. If you take things like the old Prince of Persia, or as you say, Another World, Flashback, but then some of the 16-bit platformers and the newer ones like Limbo, it is kind of an amalgamation of all of those with a good story that's not forced upon you.
Yeah.
You kind of find out about it as you play, and the presentation is lovely as well.
It is.
Really very lovely pixel art style. One to consider, it doesn't take very long as your skills are, you know, you're good at parkour and what have you. Possibly one for a sale, just with that in mind, but a very good game, and this got 81%.
All right, then we had a review from Dave Morrish of Game Up. Or is it the Game Up?
Game It Up.
Game It Up, sorry, got to get that right. So go check out his channel. But he reviewed the Pedestrian, which looks really, really good. It's essentially like a hybrid of platformer and puzzle game.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to piece together signs, link them together with different components, and then complete an obstacle course to move on to the next area. And it looks great on Switch as well. It's a really nice mashup, and I think everyone that kind of watched this review has gone, "Oh, that looks way better than I thought it was gonna."
Yeah.
That's gone on my wish list, kind of thing. Dave loved it. It didn't take him too long to finish it, but there were quite a few head-scratching moments, and it managed to be quite a stunning game, while still having that simple premise of working your way through those signs.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see a more unique puzzle game as well,
definitely.
isn't it? Something a little bit different. This one got a SwitchUp score of 82%.
All right, in second position then, we've got Lil Guardsman. Lil Guardsman. Her name is Lil. And as we said in the video, which many people found as comical as we did, her father one day decides that it's time he heads off gambling. And leaves her to guard. Like, it's the most ludicrous thing ever. It's very much like a comedy. The whole thing is a comedy, but it is a good comedy. It's written well, it's funny. I like the art style, but I did mention that it's a bit static in faces and stuff like that, which can make it a bit lifeless in scenes where otherwise you should be kind of seeing the emotion. The voice acting is really good, solid voice acting, and it kind of splits itself between the guardsman sections where you're vetting people coming through. You've got 3 levers: let them in, block them, or send them to jail, and some different equipment that you can use to help you decide whether they're telling you the truth. Yeah, good, and lots to kind of go back for, because at the end of each shift it will tell you the outcome of, you know, what you did.
Oh, I see.
So it's a bit grey. It's not like, yes, you've done that right, or it's like, this is what happened. You know, the person went and fell down a big hole and died, and
Oh, wow, okay.
you know, all of that stuff. It's quite good, and it scored a SwitchUp score of 83%.
So on to first place for the month, then quite a jump now. I'm sure you'll agree when you see the score at the end. But first place for January was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Yeah, this was a brilliant game. I don't think anyone expected. I think obviously you were a big fan of Rayman Legends, so you kind of knew the pedigree of the team.
Yeah.
But still, when you get a very popular, very famous, almost historical gaming IP, it's easy to mess it up, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. And Prince of Persia has kind of had a couple of different periods in its history. Obviously, Ubisoft weren't the original creators, where it used that rotoscoping system for its characters, and it moved on to a more 3D, you know, wall running, that sort of thing. So to go back to 2D and create a game as good as this was quite impressive, you know?
It really was. Yeah, I think we were a bit sceptical when we heard it was a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
Everything, you know, every game and its mum was a Metroidvania at the time, and it was getting a bit long in the tooth almost. So we were a bit sceptical, I think it's fair to say. But actually, they did a few things that we've never seen before, didn't they? Some like navigational tweaks and stuff.
Yeah, just quality of life improvements. And funny enough, you mentioned Grime earlier, and you were playing that for your review around mine the other day, and you mentioned the fact, like, you were lamenting the fact it didn't have one of these features whereby there's like it's just like a gust of wind almost,
like gold,
like it's like gold floating on the wind that shows you where the next save point is. And obviously in a Metroidvania where you're getting lost and you're low on health, that's a godsend. And it was just nice to see those little tweaks.
Yeah, we literally had the other version, didn't we, with Grime, where it's exactly that, and then I died.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh great.
Yeah.
Do I go back that way? Do I go the other way? I don't know. But yeah, the fluidity of movement here is crazy, and actually I think it probably affected Grime a little bit.
Yeah.
Because obviously I had that in my mind, and then I'm playing this and I'm like, oh, this feels clunky now. This feels real clunky. So yeah, it well deserves the score that we've given it. I think everyone that I've seen, I haven't seen anyone who's played this leave a comment saying it's absolutely terrible.
No.
You know, I'm really hating it.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, this is amazing. I'm loving this. So yeah, check out our full review of that. We actually did 2 videos. It was our first like big sponsored Ubisoft video as well, which was amazing. And then obviously we did a non-sponsored review, which got a SwitchUp score of 93%.
So there you have it. There's January in a nutshell. It's funny with January over the years, you seem to always have, a middling is a bit unfair, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Decent games and then one standout. And obviously this month it was that Prince of Persia game. But do let us know of any games you picked up in this month that we didn't review. What would you have given them score-wise? And if you did pick these up, what did you think of them?
Absolutely, yeah. Big thanks to our Patreons and our members. If you want to save money on physical or digital, check out all the links in the description.
Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.